Turning 25 brought James a lot of surprise. First, there was the fact that his application to work as a custom officer at Site 8 had been accepted. Considering his portfolio, he might have gotten 2 lucky D20 rolls in a row. He was sure that there would be more qualified people than him, who were desperate to work for just a day in those sites, desperate to get a chance to meet with those fluffy cat girls that keep appearing on the news. Meanwhile, he only applied due to a lost bet with his buddy Eric. His second surprise came from the fact that his work is as boring as it can get. He has seen the online reaction about magic. That video of a harpy mage splitting the water in the Nile was probably the most viewed video of the 21st century. The sale of magic tools were already booming, but after the church and several ulamas finally released an official decree stating the permissibility of them, things went from booming to Nagasaki. But now, after working here for the past 7 months or so, it gets boring really quickly. Most of the bombastic stuff people see online are high-ranking mages that are trained for decades and had really good genetic, aka royalties. Most of the mages that travelled here were not that great, and even if they do, you don't think they are going to show off their skills for no reason. All in all, it got quite boring for a while, but the pay was great. That day was no different. Next, he announced. A tall ant with brown striped-looking stains on his shell came to his view. From his look, James knew that it was an exchange student. The antenna suggested that the ant was a male, though James couldn't be sure. Papers, please. The ant quickly slid his papers through the opening in the glass wall of his cubicle. Kakoi, male. Oh, a correct guess. Returning from exchange study at University of Texas. Biology study, 3rd of July, 2035. James skinned through the papers. Bags on the conveyor belt, please. Kakaoi put his bags on the conveyor belt as instructed. Don't want to wait until tomorrow? You know, it will be the 4th of July, James asked, as he waited for the bags to be scanned. I know, but I have to hurry, Kakaoi replied in a weird tone, though if James had to be honest, all Antfolk's speech sounded weird in his ears. James looked at the X-ray scan. Ah! James's eyes perked up. So this is why he is acting weird, James thought to himself, as he looked at the X-ray screen. Deep inside the pile of clothes and weird-looking stones are several books. James could already guess what these books are. Before he could look back at him, the cubicle alert system rang out. The machine had just dispelled a spell. The alert screen showed a 75% chance of it being a sleeping spell. James looked at Kakaoi, looking at him bewilderedly, or what he assumed to be an expression of bewilderment. Please, he pleaded. James took a pause. There was a reason the company had prohibited exchange of books. It's not like the UN and the company wanted to keep their world in the medieval times. But their reasoning was that their world would be unprepared. Some people even called it human imperialism by ideas. Frankly, James couldn't care less. He was just following the rule. He picked up his rulebooks and flipped several pages. There it was. Rule 84. No books are allowed to be transferred in between worlds. Books that are allowed to be let through are very specific and must go through the screening process. These can only be done from the special South Gate. James looked at Kakaoi, and then at his rulebook again. He looked around. There was not a lot of personnel outside. James disabled the alarm and erased the logs before letting Kakaoi pass through. He looked at him blankly before realizing that the gate had been lifted. He quickly crossed his hands around his chest. Apparently it was some sign of gratefulness, before quickly dashing toward the gate with his bags in tow. James looked at him for a while, before retreating back to his cubicle. It was just some books. What could possibly go wrong? 75 years later. Queen of Kulia sat on top of her emerald throne. Beside her were several hundreds of her elite soldiers and mages, stretching out toward the grand door. In front of her were several of her ministers, generals, and great heroes and mages. Everyone was busy eating the delicious Tinian dish on their plates. The Queen signaled with her antenna, and the eating stopped. She turned to look at her closest aide, Trillia. "Have you read the book I sent you yesterday?" she asked nonchalantly. Trillia responded quickly. "Aye, I have, Your Majesty. And what do you think of it?" "It's a very good book. The writer's portrayal of the perfect world is something to be strived for." The Queen smiled. "It seems we have reached the same conclusion." Looking out from her windows, though it was not clear, far on the horizon were billows of smoke. The newly built factories have been working hard indeed, and it shows. "Everyone, I have acquired a book that shows me how a nation should be. I command everyone to strive to achieve the level of grandioseness displayed in this book." She paused. "Though it was written by a human, the content of the book is as grand as a poem written by the Yillian House." Her aides put down the books in question to everyone. It was thick, and its red cover contrasted the green draped sheet of the table. "The book has been slightly edited, but the content should remain the same. I doubt the change from Big Brother to Big Sister would change the meaning of the book." The Queen turned to the windows again, and she thought to herself, "Whoever this George Orwell human may be, I am sure he would be proud. My queendom shall be 10 times better than what Oceania could be."